Hi everyone, I'm Lynne Geaney. I have 3 children in LES and a preschooler. Hi again, all of you. You'll be surprised to hear that I have a very detailed list of responses to what we heard from Dr. Grip this evening, and I'll be emailing you all with those over the next couple of days. I know how much you enjoy receiving those, so you can look forward to that for the weekend. There was a lot from Dr. Grip, and I appreciated the questions that you asked, Charles, and all the board members. But given the 3 minutes of time I have, I wanted to make a broader point this evening. And I had an interesting email exchange with Janet and Charles during the week when I asked what Janet had said, that Dr. Grip has always been right so far. And I said, that's very interesting. How long has he been doing this for? And the answer was 2 years. And I asked that question not to impugn Dr. Grip's record in any way, but just to say that having 2 years of accurate enrolment projections doesn't really tell us all that much about how accurate those projections are going to be in the future, because this is what we tend to see with enrolment reports, and this type of report in particular, that they tend to be accurate for the first couple of years, and then they tend to trend off. And I'm not trying to, as I say, criticise Dr. Grip in that regard, because I think it's something that's common to all demographers. And reading from Dr. Grip's dissertation, which you referenced earlier this evening, he himself says that beyond 1 to 2 years, the projections tend to be highly suspect, and that many school planners realise that they are poor long-term planning techniques. So I think that's something to bear in mind when we look at them. And that's not something that we have to go to academia to experience. We've experienced this in practical terms in our own schools already. If you look at the 1998 report that was done at the time of redistricting in the time of a rising enrolment, that trend was overstated too. For the first few years, it was correct to a handful of kids, and then 5 years after that, it was more than 300 kids off. And this was under a system that Dr. Grip himself says is more accurate than the methodology that he used. This community has been asked to act before on the basis of these kinds of projections. I'm sure people who've lived here for many years remember the 2002 $28 million bond that was raised to extend our school buildings that we were going to need in the future. These very same school buildings that you're now telling us are half empty. $12.4 million was spent on extending the middle school alone, and now that's the most underutilised building in our whole school district. That's not the only example of demography reports gone bad. You look at neighbouring communities and you see it too. And I'm sure that in each one of these cases, they were not sitting on the boards of education saying, well, we think the data's a bit shonky, but we're going to go with it anyway. They were all equally convinced, as you are convinced. They all had equally convincing presentations, and they were robust. And I say this with all respect for their service to the community. I think there is sometimes a tendency amongst all decision makers to make the assumption that they are not repeating the mistakes of decision makers that came before him, to believe that this time the circumstances and the decision is different. And unfortunately, that often turns out not to be the case. So I think you have to ask yourselves, why is this demographic report right when so many others in the past have been wrong? And can we really have the level of sureness that we need to make a decision of this magnitude for our community? Thank you.